And we are live.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Government Oversight Committee, and I will call it to order. We're going to begin this morning with introductions of committee members. And so I'll call on members according to how they've been named, in the order they've been named to the committee. I'll begin with Senator Keim.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Keim, and I proudly represent Senate District 18, which is Northern Oxford County and two communities in Androscoggin. And I'd like to welcome Lucia Nixon. It's your first meeting. So glad you're here.
Senator Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Donna Bailey. I represent Senate District 31, which includes the communities of Saco, Old Orchard Beach, Hollis, Leamington, and part of Buxton.
Senator Bennett.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rick Bennett. I have the honor of serving the balance of Oxford County that Senator Keim does not have, which constitutes another 9 towns in Oxford County, plus 4 towns in the Lakes region of Cumberland County. Great to be with you. Thank you.
Senator Vitelli.
Good morning, I'm Eloise Vitelli. I represent Senate District 23, which is all 10 towns in Saginaw County and the town of Dresden in Lincoln County.
Representative Arata.
Good morning, my name is Amy Arata, and I represent House District 65, which includes New Gloucester and part of Poland.
Representative O'Neill.
Good morning. My name is Maggie O'Neill, and I'm here representing House District 15, which is in Saco.
Representative Stover.
Good morning, Holly Stover, House Representative for District 89, including Boothbay Harbor, South Port Edgecombe, West Port Island, and part of South Bristol.
Representative McDonald.
Good morning, I'm Genevieve McDonald. I represent House District 134, which is the offshore islands of Penobscot Bay and Western Frenchman's Bay.
And you serve as the House co-chair.
I do, thank you.
And my name is Nate Libby. I proudly represent all of the people of Lewiston in the Maine Senate and serve as Senate co-chair. I'd now like to introduce some of the staff from OPEGA who support the work of the Government Oversight Committee. I'll begin by introducing Lucia Nixon. This is Lucia's first meeting as the new director of OPEGA. She has a long and impressive track record working for the legislature in various offices. Lucia, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. Thank you, Senator Libby. And it's great to be here with all of you for my first GOC meeting as the OPEGA director. I have had the fortune of working with some of you in my past work for OPLA, where I was served as committee staff for various committees between 2003 and 2010, and then again from 2016 until this last week. And I've also did have the privilege to work at OPEGA for 2 years during 2014 to 2016. So I'm glad to be back at OPEGA. I'm excited for this new role and look forward to working with all of you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time if you have questions or there's ways in which I can assist you in your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. We're very excited to have you. I just would like to note that we conducted, I think, a pretty rigorous hiring process to find an OPEGA director. We had a subcommittee of this committee that included myself, Representative McDonald, Senator Keim, and Representative Dillingham. Lucia came out of that process as our unanimous consensus recommendation for hire, and we're very pleased to have you. So thank you. We're also joined today by Etta Connors, who serves as clerk for the GOC, in addition to other responsibilities at OPEGA. Hello, Etta. It's good to see you. And as well, we've got Amy Gagne, Matt Kruk, and Jennifer Henderson, analysts with OPEGA, who are joining us today. So good morning to you all. At this time, I just want to review some of the so-called housekeeping items for how our electronic virtual meeting of the Government Oversight Committee will be conducted. As folks are aware, this meeting is being broadcast live on the GOC's YouTube channel, and it's being recorded as well. Just as a reminder, the YouTube feed is turned on at the beginning of our meeting and will remain on for the duration of the meeting. If we take a break, the stream will continue. If you're on the Zoom platform and your camera and microphone are on, just remember that whatever you say or do will be seen or heard again, even during breaks. Please remember to mute your mic when you're not speaking. All of the materials that we have prepared and will be going over today, all of those materials have either been mailed to you or distributed electronically to members, and all of those materials as well have been posted on OPEGA's website at the start of this meeting. You can find that under GOC meetings section of the website. During today's meeting, the OPEGA director and assigned staff may be sharing documents with us on the screen. Today's meeting has a public comment period, so we're using Zoom webinar as our platform. And just as a reminder, the chair will recognize members or others to participate. There are a few ways you can grab our attention if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question. You can use the raise hand function, which is part of Zoom. You can also raise your physical hand or wave your hand to get our attention. You can also use the chat function if you'd like to get our attention as well. But just please remember that the chat function in Zoom should not be used for any substantive discussion or committee business, because the chat function is not available to the public who are watching. Please limit the use of chat to getting the attention of the chair, or if you are having technical issues and you need some assistance, you can drop a message into the chat and the OPEGA staff can be responsive to that and connect you with the IT department if that's what's needed. Let's see. A final reminder is that members must be able to be seen and heard by the chair for any vote that we're going to take, for that vote to be recorded. Are there any questions or comments on any of that? Seeing none. Next item we have is a review of the summary of our meeting on February 12th. The minutes of that meeting were sent out earlier this morning. Are there any comments, questions, or changes that members would like to request for those meeting minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on. Under new business, we have a request for review of the Wild Blueberry Commission. This request was made by 6 legislators during the 129th legislature. Because of the timing of the beginning of the pandemic and the legislature ending its operations early, the GOC was not able to take up that request at the time it was submitted. However, we are planning to take it up today. GOC members, you have in your notebook under tab 1 a review request sheet with some background information that's been compiled by OPEGA. And then behind that is a copy of the request letter. We've asked at least one of the legislators who drafted the letter to be with us here today to speak to it. I believe Senator Moore was planning to attend. Representative McDonald, do you see Senator Moore? There she is. So good morning, Senator Moore. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator Libby. I appreciate that. I
We
will
are-
just comment that I'm here at my little apartment and I have very unstable internet. So I will leave my video off in hopes that at least still participate somewhat in the meeting if there are questions.
That sounds fine, Senator Moore. And thank you for being with us. We are in receipt of your letter. We've also received a letter from the Wild Blueberry Commission of Maine in response to this item being on our agenda. And then the Opega staff have done a little background review for us, but I think at this point we would welcome your comments, description of the issue as you see it, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Senator Libby. I appreciate that. I assume that in your material you do have a copy of the letter that we sent, the Washington County delegation sent, that outlined 3 of the main items that we are requesting a little bit of a review with. We've been quite concerned with the transparency between the Wild Blueberry Commission and its stewardship of the blueberry taxes earmarked for marketing and its relationship to an industry. Sorry, I got knocked off. I gotta love it. So those are the 3 issues that we've listed down below that we would ask for a review of, and I believe it continues to be a concern. We did, however, meet with the commission yesterday along with the University of Maine at the Cooperative Extension. And I know we have a new executive director, and I know that he is anxious to do good, but we do want to make sure that the stewardship of those state blueberry taxes are being utilized to market the Maine wild blueberries. We feel like a lot of them in the partnership that they're using, or the marketing group they're using with the wild blueberries of North America.
Senator Moore, I wonder if we
Well-
could pause your testimony and perhaps we could give you the telephone number to call in, Lucia or Opega staff. Would that be an option?
Sure, we could get that information to her just a second, if that
Okay.
would be helpful. Yeah.
And I think I have the phone number, so let me just go ahead and dial into the number.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right, I will do that. Thank you. Okay, I've joined, however, it is saying I'm muted.
Are you 207952? This is a strange setup. There, I think you're in.
There we go. Thank you. All right, let me get off of the meeting.
I just
Okay.
there we go. You should be good
Yeah.
to go.
There we go. I apologize. I stayed over last night, so I didn't make it home, and the internet here in Augusta at my little cabin is not very stable. So I do apologize for that.
Thank you, Senator. Would you mind starting from the beginning again? I think I missed a little bit of the beginning of your statement.
Okay. No problem. You all, as I assume you all have copies of the letter that was sent by the Washington County delegation. And it began, we started talking with them back in February. And as Senator Libby mentioned, because of our short term that we had in the legislature, we never were able to have that taken up before you. What our major concern is and that this is what we are requesting to review, is of the Wild Blueberry Commission, which is established by statute, and its stewardship of the state blueberry taxes that are earmarked for marketing, as well as its relationship to an industry marketing group called the Wild Blueberries of North America. Our concern is that we're spending a lot of money, or the Wild Blueberry Commission is sending a lot of money to the Wild Blueberries of North America, and the advertising is not, the marketing is not being generated. There's not enough marketing being generated for Maine wild blueberries. And that is our concern. And there's not a lot of transparencies between the two operations as well. And so there is quite a bit of a concern about that and how they're handling the state blueberry tax revenues. I know it's a complex and a weird, strange relationship between the large producers and the growers. And so there's been a constant battle with that. Just a little bit of background with the Blueberry Commission. Last session, we actually did increase the commission and added 2 additional growers to the commission. So there are now 5 producers and 5 growers. But we still want to make sure that the state blueberry taxes are being used for marketing Maine wild blueberries. We face quite a bit of competition with the Canadian blueberry providers, and there was a recent inquiry that was going on. It was called the 201 inquiry, where they were looking at if there was some injury being caused by the Canadian importing of blueberries to the Maine blueberry growers and the producers, and they found no fault, which we found that a little strange, but regardless. Getting back to what our request is, however, we are asking that there be a review of the blueberry tax money, where it's going. We listed the 3 items in our letter. Yesterday, we did meet with the executive director and a staff member from the University of Maine Cooperative Extension. He is new. He is trying, I think, to clean things up. I did mention to him that we had brought this forth before the the Oversight Committee for review. And I understand, I didn't know, Senator Libby, that they had made a response to it. I've not seen that to know what was said. But we still feel it is important that we have a review to make sure that the relationship between the industry, the commission, and that the Wild Blueberries of North America organization is transparent. How are they conducting their business? And who is providing the oversight on an ongoing basis to be sure that the state blueberry taxes are being spent on marketing Maine wild blueberries.
Thank you, Senator Moore. Are there questions of committee members for Senator Moore at this time? I see Senator Bennett and then Representative Arata.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Moore, thank you for your coming before us today. The letter has an important line in it, which is where is the blueberry tax money going? Is the WBC using WBANA to steer it back to themselves and not for marketing? Can you elaborate on that and what is driving that concern? I mean, that seems like a fairly laden charge, and I'm just curious as to whether you have anything to support the implications of that question.
To go back to my notes, my understanding is, I want to say the amount is, let me see if I can find the actual amount. The commission is paying the WABANA, as that they refer to them, $900,000 a year. Let me think. No, we're paying $95,000. Excuse me. No, it's not. I'm not sure of the exact amount, but that has been the Wabana okay, here's my notes. The Wabana, I apologize because I'm reading some scribbly notes here. Wabana's income is $95,000, and that pays for the commission to doing the work, their work. Our commission, the Wild Blueberry Commission, actually pays Wabana for marketing $900,000 a year. And so that's what we're not able to get the accountability as to what they're spending that money on. You know, they claim that or what I understand, and some of this might be a little bit of a hearsay. I know that Greg Bridges and Courtney Hammond have been quite actively involved with both the Wild Blueberry Commission and then as well as Wabana. And every time they've asked, you know, what is your marketing plan? What are you doing? What's being done? They're kind of glossing over it. They're not saying a whole lot of it, and we're not seeing the marketing effort going forth for the wild blueberries here in Maine.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Arata.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Has the state auditor made a report about regarding the Wild Blueberry Commission? It seems like a lot of these questions could be answered by the state auditor's report.
To my knowledge, there has not been an audit done and an audit report.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions from the committee for Senator Moore? Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, I lost internet as well, so now I'm on my phone. So, Senator Moore, I apologize, I missed the end of your testimony, but I had some questions about, I'm curious, given, I did hear you mention the change to the commission to add the 2 additional growers, and I was curious to hear your feedback as to what has shifted over the past year. I think they came on in the fall, correct?
No, actually, the growers themselves, the 2 growers, did not actually come on until January of this year.
Okay, so incredibly.
And then a lot of it was due to the pandemic, you know, and not meeting and all of that, what was happening. But so the 2 growers really came on board. I believe January was their first meeting, maybe December or January. It's just been recent that they came on board.
Okay, so we don't have a lot of time to measure, you know, what differences we have with their participation.
No, we really don't, Representative O'Neill. Of course, our concern is where the monies are being spent as far as the marketing goes and the relationship with the Wild Blueberries of North America organization.
Are you able to articulate those concerns as to what could be done differently, or do you have growers or producers that have done that or that are here today?
None of the growers or producers were invited today. I understood that would be maybe in future work sessions that they would be able to participate. They probably are listening to it on YouTube. What my understanding is that right now the commission is paying the Wild Blueberries of North America $900,000 a year for marketing. When they've come back and asked to take a look at their marketing plan, they've been very loosey-goosey about it. They've been very quiet about it, and they've never really given them an accountability of how that monies are being spent. And right now, we feel, or they feel, I should say, that a lot of that marketing effort is being spent on Canadian blueberries rather than Maine wild blueberries. And when we look at the blueberry market, right now, Maine is 25% of the providers, and Canada is up to 75%. And that's why we are feeling that we are not getting a fair shake at getting the marketing out there for Maine wild blueberries.
I completely understand that if it's being spent on wild blueberries in general and given the share that that's what it, could feel and look like, and would like to have that conversation about how it could be done better. And I want to offer as well that ag could use its oversight function to have that conversation too about how to do that better.
Thank you. That would be great. Yeah.
And I think my other question is, what would you like to see for more transparency? I saw that was part of the request, is maybe making some suggestions and getting OPEGA's help and how to do that. But do you have ideas going in about what transparency would look like?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I really do not, because this is not my expertise field. I wish I was a blueberry grower, but I do know that I think the frustration that I hear from our blueberry growers and our producers is that they don't feel like there's enough marketing out there. They don't feel like they are getting, in a sense, their money's worth. They're all paying their blueberry taxes like they have to. Of course, the market is low right now. They've not been paid very high. And so I think in their minds, by the transparency, is really having some sort of a strong plan from the wild blueberries of North America. If they're going to use that company to be the marketing person or the marketing tool for the wild blueberries of Maine, then they feel like they should have either a say in the marketing plan or have some idea of what is going on with the marketing plan. And they're not getting that today.
Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you. That's helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure if I was on mute before.
Thank you, Representative. Are there further questions or comments from the committee for Senator Moore? Senator Bennett.
Thank you. Just one other question, and maybe Senator Moore, you're not the right person to go to, but I'm just curious what is the contract between the Wild Blueberry Commission and Wabana? Is that something which is accessible to the public? Is it accessible to you? Have you seen it?
And Senator Bennett, I appreciate that question. I have not seen it, to be honest with you. And I'm not sure exactly if it is a contract per se, or whether it's a relationship. It's an assumed relationship. I'm not sure. I don't know how that agreement is in place, and I've not seen that.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions from the committee? Senator Moore, I'm looking at the letter dated February 26th from the Wild Blueberry Commission. It's very straightforward. There's not a lot of substance here. However, the executive director, Eric Venturini, noted that in April of 2020, the Wild Blueberry Commission submitted a detailed program evaluation report to the chairs of the Ag Committee. I wondered if you've had a chance to see that report, first off.
I have not. I have not seen the report.
Okay. Representative O'Neill had suggested that the Ag Committee may be able to provide an oversight function in this case, and I wanted to ask you, Senator Moore, have you had conversations with the current chairs of the Ag Committee on this question?
I have not, Senator Libby.
Okay. So I think as a general matter, when we entertain requests to conduct an investigation, the committee members, I think, understand fairly well that the OPEGA office has limited staff capacity, and so when we are making a decision to take on a new investigation, we have to balance that fact with our other pending investigations and the items that we have on our work plan yet to be taken up. At this particular time, the on deck list, I believe, only has one item, and that item was originally requested in 2013. It's happened to have been pushed down the priority list over subsequent GOCs. So the amount of work on our to-do list is, generally speaking, not as much as we're perhaps used to. So there could be an argument that we have capacity to undertake this investigation, but I just wanted to ask the committee to consider if we should suggest that Senator Moore have a conversation with the chairs of the Ag Committee, ask them to consider inviting the principals of the Blueberry Commission before them, ask them to make disclosure of some of the documents and information that the Washington County delegation is seeking, perhaps suggest that occur in the next month, and that depending on the outcome of that, we would revisit this question. So I'd offer that to the committee for your consideration, and as well for Senator Moore's consideration. I see Representative McDonald has her hand raised.
Thank you, Senator. I would be in agreement with that. I don't want to dismiss this completely and let it go from our committee, but I would like to see if there is a oversight review capability through Ag. I think that would be the appropriate location for it. So I would echo your sentiments to request that Senator Moore go and meet with Ag requests. I'd like to see the program evaluation document. It sounds like that could be helpful. And if Ag can direct an audit, which is what it sounds like this program needs, that would be the appropriate location, and then to come back to us and let us know the outcome of those conversations.
Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the suggestion. I'll say again, I am willing to do that. I've spoken, I haven't had the chance to speak with Senator Moore about this yet, but I have spoken with one of the members of the Washington County delegation that made this request, and have already made that offer. So both I and Senator Dill, I'm sure, will be happy to sit down and see what we can do in the next month.
That would be great.
Other comments or questions from the committee?
I agree.
Senator Kime?
Yeah, I agree also, as long as, and it sounds like Senator Moore, just to confirm, also agrees with that method of moving forward.
I am willing to do whatever it takes so that we can find out what's going on. I think that's going to be the most important part of it.
Great, thank you.
Just as follow-up, Senator Moore, I might suggest that in the conversation with co-chairs of the Ag Committee, that an invitation to the staff and some of the commissioners to the Ag Committee to have this discussion would be appropriate. You may ask at that time, when the invitation is given, that the commission provide various documents that may help provide information in support of the questions you're asking. That may include contracts with Wabana. That may include any internal audits that have been conducted. And this is in addition to the report that they describe having delivered to the Ag Committee in 2020. What I'm getting at, I suppose, is asking for all of those documents that help you look under the hood, so to speak, at the operations of the Blueberry Commission.
Sure, I've been making notes of that. Representative O'Neill, I was just curious, you mentioned you'd had conversation with one of the Washington County delegation. Who was it that you were talking to?
Thanks for the question. Sorry, I'm toggling on my phone. I spoke with Representative Toole
Great.
either this week or last week.
Okay, great. He wasn't able to make the meeting this morning, so that was that helps me get a little bit of a direction there.
Great.
And Senator Moore, for your benefit, I don't think we're closing the door on the potential for directing OPEGA to conduct an initial review. However, in the next month, if this work can generate some information that's useful in answering your questions, that could either support OPEGA doing an investigation or sort of a natural conclusion of this effort without needing to engage the OPEGA staff resources. So I think in either scenario, this interim step will be useful for all of us.
Great. Sounds good, Senator Libby.
Are there further comments or questions on this subject? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if the request that Senator Moore and the other members of the delegation meet with the Ag Committee should be put in writing from the GOC so that the committee is alerted to our objectives and reasoning behind it, and maybe make that transmission a little bit more formal.
Mm.
That's a great suggestion, Representative Millett. And I saw Lucia nodding her head favorably. I think she's been able to capture, I think, the substance of this discussion and can help us in drafting that letter that we can transmit to the chairs.
Yes,
That would be very, very, very helpful. Thank you.
I was just nodding that I can do that if you wish.
That would be helpful to our process as well. Thank you.
Senator Bennett.
Thank you. I'm new to this committee and I appreciate it. So I'm on a learning curve here. So I just I'm just curious as to what is the posture of this issue now? I didn't hear a question put, so there's nothing really to table. Will it just, by the nature of our process, will it just be sitting there for us to take up at our next meeting as an unfinished item, or how does that work?
That's a great question, Senator. I think an appropriate action for us to take once the discussion is concluded this morning would be for a motion to table this matter so that it's carried forward into the unfinished business section of our agenda. I think when it comes to transmitting the letter that we've described, I don't know that we need a motion for that. I believe the chairs have the ability to transmit letters, and we have sort of the trust of the committee members to represent the discussion accurately and convey that message. That's my understanding of how we've done things in the past. And if I've missed anything, please, anyone, feel free to correct me or make a comment. Lucia, is that a fair representation?
Yes, I think so. I think it would be perfectly appropriate to table this to a later date, and in the meantime, direct a letter to be sent, and staff will assist with that letter.
Senator Bennett, does that answer your question?
It does. Not to be too technical, I apologize, but just really curious as to what the process is. So we've received communications, and there's not actually a question though as yet. Is that right? So there's nothing specifically to table, but this committee I know has different processes than most. So we just sort of have matters that are brought before us, and then we can I guess the expectation to be a motion to table this matter, and we haven't determined the status of the question even yet. Is that right? Just for future reference, I'm trying to get my head around
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Senator. So it may be a good exercise to take just a moment to direct members to tab J in our binders. Tab J. So this document's been used for several years, and it helps focus the committee discussion towards a number of action steps that we may have at our disposal. The first page in tab J is sort of a checklist of questions to consider when it comes to the appropriateness of a request. On the back side of that page, in the bottom section of tab J, there are 6 actions listed for options available to the GOC when considering a request. And so option 1 is obviously no further action. Option 2 is referring to another entity, and so on and so forth. And, I don't know that we are making a formal referral to the Ag Committee to conduct an investigation. I think it's more informal than that, where we are asking if they would, invite the interested parties, ask them for disclosure of documents and that sort of thing. And that to your original question, we could take no further action at this time, but I'm recommending that this is a matter before us, and that we are able to table this matter without taking further action, carrying it forward to the next agenda or to the next to a future meeting for follow-up and consideration of further action.
Okay, so that tabling is sort of not on this list. It wouldn't be the equivalent of place topic on standby list because it really hasn't gotten to that point yet. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and patience.
Lucia, did you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to add, I think, as I think mentioned to you, there is, in my research into what the options are at this stage, there is another option that for some reason is on a different list, but showed up as the letter G didn't show up here, which is to take some other action at your discretion, which some examples I think in the past is schedule further discussion, request additional background information before deciding on an action. So there is a letter G that has been used before, which sounds similar. If you wanted to formalize I think you have the option, if you wanted to vote that you were directing that a letter be sent to ACF, you could go that way if you wanted to take a formal vote. But I do think it would be okay to table this matter to a later session. And it's just different than policy committees and LDs.
Further questions or comments on this matter? Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my question before we wrap this up is, would it be possible to work with Senator Moore in gathering a bit more info before sending this request over to ACF, just so that we have some just so we have clarity about what's best to request from Wabana, from the commission. I think that would be helpful to, just put a little bit of time into that. I heard you articulate that there was some ability to research or get background information. I don't know how what that request would look like, but that would be helpful to our process.
Representative O'Neill, I think we can we can work together offline in drafting that letter to the chairs of ACF. We're happy to work with Senator Moore and yourself as well. I apologize. I did not know you were House co-chair of ACF. I had to look it up here. So I'm not sure if the other committee members know that the House co-chair of ACF is Representative O'Neill, but certainly having you on this committee and as a part of this project is going to be useful, and we can certainly help facilitate the development of questions and scope and that sort of thing for your process.
Thank you.
Representative Millet.
Would you like a motion to summarize what we've been discussing, Senator?
That would be in order, Representative Millet.
I would move that the GOC table the February 28th request of 2020 from the Washington County delegation pending a referral of the issues raised therein to the Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry Committee, and to place it under the unfinished business of the work of the commission pending a response back from that review.
Thank you, Representative Millet.
Second.
Is there a second? Representative Arado? Is there further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, is the committee ready for the question?
I didn't even think a tabling motion is debatable, is it?
Thank you, Representative Bennett. It was a late night last night. I'm still getting my coffee going. There is no discussion in order on the motion, and I'll ask Etta to call the roll.
A, Senator Libby?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Bailey?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Vitelli?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Keim?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Timberlake? Absent. Senator Bennett?
Yes.
Yes. Representative McDonald?
Yes.
Yes. Representative O'Neill?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Stover?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Dillingham? Absent. Representative Millet?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Arada?
Yes.
Yes.
The motion carries and is unanimous. Thank you, committee. Senator Moore, thank you for your presentation this morning, and we look forward to working with you on this project together.
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is public comment on OPEGA's report on Pine Tree development zones. For the benefit of the new members, this was a limited scope review of Pine Tree development zones that was generated after discussion from OPEGA's original tax expenditure review of this program. I believe some information is contained in tab 3. Is that correct, Lucia?
Yes, sorry, I was muted, but yes, it's tab 3. There is some information at tab 3 regarding the limited scope review. It's very simple. The committee GOC was also provided in prior emails, was provided information regarding provided the report and the presentation that was delivered to the 129th GOC in November. So just kind of catching this at a time where the presentation was made to the 129th in November 2020, wanting to get the information since it was completed, get it transmitted and available to legislators and the public at that time. And you're revisiting it now and taking public comment on the report. After you take public comment, staff will provide a quick recap of summary of the report, questions and findings, and the discussion of the November 20th meeting, to hopefully get everyone up to speed and at a good point to just start your work session.
Thank you, Lucia. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing, the public comment section rather, on the Pine Tree Development Zone follow-up report. So for the public who are watching and may be interested in participating in this discussion, I'm just going to review some of our procedures. So if you'd like to testify today, many of you have registered for the Zoom webinar and sent any of your written testimony to Etta Connors in Opega ahead of time. If, however, you are participating today and you've not registered for the webinar and you would like to testify, please go to Opega's website now, and under the GOC meetings tab, you will be able to register and you will receive an email that allows you to connect to the Zoom meeting or to dial in. We will be promoting webinar attendees to panelists one by one for them to give their testimony, and then moving them back to attendee when they are finished and members have no further questions. Then we'll move on to the next person. Please be aware, if you're a member of the public, that when you are promoted or moved back to attendee, it may appear as though you've been kicked out of the meeting, but that is not the case. This is just the Zoom program reassigning you from being a panelist to an attendee. For the folks who've signed up ahead of time, I have a list of those individuals. And so I'm going to identify the first 3 people on that list so you can be prepared for your turn. And as we near the end of those 3 speakers, I'll read the name of the next group and so on. And we'll proceed in that manner. After we've heard from all of the individuals who have signed up to give testimony, I'll then ask if there are any folks who did not register ahead of time who would like to speak. At that time, please use the raise hand function if your name has not been called. It'd be greatly appreciated if, when you're offering testimony, that you exit the Zoom meeting when you're done, and you can watch the rest of the meeting on the GOC's YouTube channel. If you have written materials or written remarks, it would be very helpful to our Opega staff if you're able to send those remarks to us after you've concluded your comments. It definitely helps us in preparing the meeting minutes if we have those materials sent to us. If you need to exit the meeting before being called upon to testify, please be aware that you can submit written testimony at any time by emailing that to Etta Connors in Opega. And again, just to bring us back to the beginning, the purpose of this part of the GOC meeting is to receive comment from the public on the Pine Tree Development Zone's limited scope review. So with that, we will begin taking testimony. The individuals who have signed up to give testimony, I'll list the first 3. Phoenix McLaughlin, followed by Kate Foy, and then Daniel D'Alessandro. So we will begin with Phoenix, who has joined us. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, thank you very much. So Senator Libby, Representative McDonald, and members of the Committee on Government and Oversight, my name is Phoenix McLaughlin, and I'm the Tax Incentive Policy Manager for the Department of Economic and Community Development. And I'm here today to speak about the Pine Tree Development Zone program. So my primary role is managing the Pine Tree Development Zone and employment tax increment financing programs for the department. This position requires a great deal of familiarity with the ins and outs of these programs. And so I explain the details of the program to businesses, manage the application and certification process, and help businesses through the annual reporting process and review their submissions. So with this perspective, there are a few points I want to offer the committee today as you discuss the Pine Tree Zone program. First, Pine Tree Zones are one of the state's foremost business development tools. When a business connects to DECD to figure out how their investment plans could work in Maine, Pine Tree Zones almost always tops the list of programs the department discusses with them if they fit the criteria. Whether a major wood products manufacturer is comparing multiple states to make their next investments, or a local business is looking for ways to grow their steel fabrication shop, Pine Tree Zones is the best package Maine has to offer. It is the largest tool the state has for incentivizing business starts and expansions in Maine, and it forms a key part of the department's attraction efforts. The state does not have another comparable program quite like Pine Tree Zones. Second, I want to offer my support for many of the points covered in OPEGA's recent report on Pine Tree Zones. Some of the key changes the legislature made to the program since OPEGA's 2017 report substantively improved how benefits are administered, such as that they kick in only after the company can confirm they have added new positions. OPEGA's points about how the program could be improved are also on target, namely that it would benefit from clearer data collection and analysis, although there are some inherent limitations on what information can actually be gathered and evaluated with the current program design. The office is also right that the Pine Tree Zone program matches up broadly with the top line goals of the strategic plan, but we've not yet linked it to the specific action items the plan recommends. So lastly, because the program is important to the state, but can still be improved and better incorporated into the economic development strategy, we are working to review Pine Tree Zones ourselves to identify the best path forward for the policy. A lot of the department's longer term policy work was delayed with the onset of the pandemic, and that included a full review of the Pine Tree Development Zone program. Now we have the chance to dive deeper into incentive policy. We want to be sure our incentive programs are cohesive with the economic development strategy, reflect current research and the best practices for development incentives, and are responsive to the national economic landscape as we hopefully approach the end of the pandemic. So engaging with all the right people and organizations to ensure a thorough review of Pine Tree Zones will take time, but will ultimately lead to the best policy outcome. So the Pine Tree Development Zone program is an important tool the state has to support business growth in Maine. And we appreciate the continued work of OPEGA and this committee to analyze and improve the program. And we hope to build on this conversation in the coming months. So thank you for your time, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your comments. Are there questions or comments from the committee? I see Senator Vitelli.
Thank you, Senator Libby. Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin, for being here today and for your testimony. I'm a new member of this committee. I've got some familiarity with this program. My question has to do with whether you can provide a little bit more insight on what the limitations are around the data collection. Having spent some time in my previous life looking at data and evaluations and program accountability, I know that data can be an issue, but I'm just curious, can you be a little bit more specific about what those limitations might be?
Sure, yeah, thank you for the question. I would say there are limitations on two levels. One, and I'll give some examples. So one level is the way the law is set up. So one of the major benefits is a sales tax exemption for businesses. And the way that functions is that once they've added the jobs, they can get a sales tax exemption certificate, which means that when they purchase items for their operation, they can present that certificate, and then they don't get charged the sales tax. So that just means that, functionally that does incur a cost in the form of foregone revenue to the state, but that doesn't flow through the state accounts. It just happens at the transaction level. So we don't necessarily know what money was, spent on the program in that case. So that's just one example of how, at the program level, that is how the data that we can collect is going to be somewhat limited. But then on the program administration side, just the program that we use, it's especially targeted at processing the reports that the businesses submit, but it's not necessarily very efficient at reporting and analyzing summaries of that data, year over year, and that's somewhat a limitation of that program itself that we use. And OPEGA, I think, did refer to this in the report. So those are a couple examples.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Further questions or comments for Mr. McLaughlin?
Sorry, I was just going to add something to Phoenix's question, if that is okay.
Seeing none, I have one question. I know that in our last full review, we spent quite a bit of time talking about the but-for statement, which basically is the business commits in writing that that they will create jobs and undertake certain activity, and it's only because they're able to access the Pine Tree Development benefit that activity occurs. A few years ago, it was a simple form that was filled out and completed by the principal of the business, and committee members at that time felt that was not necessarily an effective tool for ensuring that these tax benefits flow to businesses that really need them and will use the tax benefit to hire more folks and engage in certain activities. An amendment to that process was requiring a notary to view an individual signing that form. But I think the OPEGA folks, agree that's still not quite an adequate tool to ensure that businesses are only taking advantage of this credit or this program to do certain activities. So have you given thought to what additional accountability could be talked about to help address that concern that these tax benefits don't flow to businesses that would otherwise do that activity regardless of having the tax credit?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Senator. Before I respond, I do see my colleague Charlotte Mace had her hand raised. I'm not sure if you wanted to say something about that question, Charlotte.
Yeah, I
Well,
did, but I don't think
I'm sorry. I just for folks that are not familiar with our process, we're accepting testimony from individuals. The committee may have follow-up questions. When that concludes, we'll move on to the next person. If you'd like to defer to your colleague, I can ask the question after you're done, if that's what you'd like.
Okay, understood. I will. So just about the but-for issue. Again, I think I would agree with what OPEGA mentions in the report, that it is an imperfect tool, and there are one level that it is kind of an issue on is that if the question is, does this guarantee that dollars only flow to business activities that literally would not happen at all if not for the program? That would be that is not, it's not quite an answerable question, I would say. I guess one analogy that I kind of would think of is just that incentives are not typically an all or nothing type of deal. So the but-for question is arranged in such a way that it doesn't necessarily it doesn't quite get at the way that a business would actually make the decision to invest. There are 1,000 different factors that would need to be incorporated into a business's decision to make a deal to expand or invest in Maine. And if any one of those was not quite was not in place, then the deal might not go forward. And there's also a limitation, the fact that this is a 10-year program, and businesses can't perfectly project 10 years out what their finances will be. And if the enhanced ETIF payment in years 8 through 10 will be the kind of make or break for their decision. So that's to say that taken to the extreme, the idea that that this activity would absolutely not happen if not for the program. I think that's a tough thing to say, like, absolutely yes, that is clearly what's happening here. So I think I agree with what Opega has written, saying that it is an imperfect tool to guaranteeing that funds are flowing only to where this committee or the state thinks they absolutely need to flow. I think there are better tools for doing that, including generally following improved data collection and program management, as they say. So I would agree that the but-for letter is not the end-all be-all of program accountability, but I think there are probably other ways to improve that. Does that answer your question, Senator?
To a degree. I think I'm interested in further conversation with the department and the committees of jurisdiction on what additional safeguards we could consider moving forward. But appreciate your answer to my question. Further comments or questions from the committee? Senator Bennett.
So having said all that, what is our best guess as a state as to how many jobs have legitimately been nurtured or created? Created is a better word, by this program.
Thank you for the question, Senator. I do not have the number on hand of the total number of jobs over the years, but based on the self-reported numbers in 2019 from participating businesses, there were about 7,250 jobs that were eligible under the Pine Tree Zone program from the participating companies. So those were jobs that were people who were working during the 2019 calendar year.
Those are jobs not necessarily created, but they were maybe saved, or but for the Pine Tree Zone, they may have gone away, et cetera.
Yeah, typically they are new jobs created. In some cases, they will be retained jobs, but usually it's new.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions? Seeing none, Mr. McLaughlin, if you do have written testimony and you're willing to share it with the Opega staff, that will be very helpful to us in preparing our minutes.
I'm sorry, can I ask one more question?
Sure, Senator Bennett.
I was just flipping through here because I thought I'd saw the number, but it's not in this report that was recently sent, maybe in the other one. What does the program cost per year?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So there's two ways to answer that. One is the self-reported number from the businesses. Yeah. And for the year 2019, the participating businesses self-reported that they had collected around $25 million worth of benefits for that year. However, that is, I do need to say that is quite a bit different than how MRS, Maine Revenue Services, calculates the estimated cost of the program, where if you tally up in their tax expenditures report the estimated cost of the program for their estimate for fiscal year 2021 was closer to $10 to $12 million. And just to put it out there, some reasons why those numbers might not match up include one, it's fiscal year versus calendar year. Some of the benefits are paid out in later fiscal years, such as the ETIF benefit. Another one is the sales tax benefit that I mentioned. Maine Revenue Services has to just estimate how much that cost, and 2019 happened to be a year where businesses reported a lot of investment that would have accrued that sales tax benefit to them. It's also self-reported, so it is reliant on that larger number I gave you is reliant on businesses self-reporting the correct number. So yeah, you're welcome.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you. The next person on my list is Kate Foy. However, Charlotte Mace is on. Are you standing in for Kate this morning, Ms. Mace?
Yes, I am. She's not able to be in this meeting today.
Okay, so welcome.
The testimony that we have was Phoenix's, and he already gave it. So just want to say that.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments for Ms. Mace? Representative Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure that Ms. Mace or Phoenix from the Department of Economic and Community Development would be the right people to answer this question, but the last of the conclusions, both on the cover page of our report and the summary within, speaks to the notion that the report expected from the Maine's Economic Recovery Committee in December of last year might shed more light on the Pine Tree Zone's role in the economic recovery following the pandemic. I wondered if the department had analyzed that final report and had any comments to make regarding how it fits within the post-pandemic era and maybe in relation to the 10-year economic development strategy plan.
Thank you, Representative. I certainly would be willing to take a stab at answering that. Phoenix had mentioned that we are slightly delayed in our review of Pine Tree Development Zone and related incentives like ETIF, in part because of the pandemic. But also, if you remember, we introduced a 10-year economic development plan in December of 2019, and we were just getting to the point where we were implementing the work from that when the pandemic hit. And so then we switched to the Economic Recovery Committee. And so now we're in the process of streamlining the recommendations from the ERC with the 10-year economic plan. So I would say that absolutely that is going to impact what we're doing. And I will also just note that one thing that we're finding from the pandemic is some of the incentives now, economic developments and incentives that you'll see nationally are really focused on the worker, because we've seen such a shift in the way work is happening. So we are taking all of these things into account, and it's definitely still in process. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your response. Charlotte, do you have a timeline when you think that analysis from the Economic Recovery Committee report and your review might be interfaced with conclusions that the GOC would hear from you?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. I think we're working very actively on it now. DECD has established a working group that Commissioner Johnson has convened to sort of think about incentives and make sure that this is all sort of streamlined with what we want and what we want for economic recovery. So I would say in the very coming months, meaning now and in the next few months, is when we're working on that. And we certainly welcome additional input.
Thank you.
Additional questions for Ms. Mace? I'll just note her name on her screen is not Kate Foy. It is Charlotte Mace. Senator Bennett.
Thank you. My other phone is ringing and it's going to be annoying, so forgive me. I just question about, with the advent of remote working, how does the program adjust or not for jobs that is effectively, the business might be in a Pine Tree zone, but maybe the worker and the job created is not. Is there nuance there?
That's a great question, Senator, and I think Phoenix might have a response to that, but I certainly can start. We do know that there has been some shifts. The program was obviously designed to focus on where the jobs are and where the worker is, and as we know, that has changed dramatically and everyone has very different commutes. So we're in the process of getting some better understanding now with the AG's office as to defining where the location of that worker is, because we do know that it is shifted because of the pandemic. So we are having very active current discussions about that very issue because it is important.
Mr. Chair, would it be okay if I pose that question to Mr. McLaughlin if he has anything further to add?
Senator Bennett, I appreciate your asking. I think in most cases, we try to respect the queue and the folks.
Okay, I'll defer.
No, but however, the queue is fairly small today, so
okay. Right.
with leave, one question would be fine.
All right, thank you. And perhaps Phoenix, you don't have further comment, but I wanted to give you a chance.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would say really Charlotte covered it. It's something that we're actively discussing. It's a very timely question. So we don't have any clear conclusion to give you right now.
Thank you.
Further questions for Ms. Mace? Seeing none, Ms. Mace, I just would like to pose my question earlier to you. Would DECD consider working with us and the policy committees on addressing the lack of a strong but-for provision as part of accountability for this program?
Thank you, Senator. That's a great question. Do you think you could just word it again so that I understand exactly what you're asking? Thank you.
Sure. So the original but-for requirement was contained in a form that was simply signed by a principal at a beneficiary of this program. The amendment to that, and recognizing that that was not really any sort of effective tool for accountability, was having a notary witness that signature, which I still feel is largely no different than the system we had before. So it's been identified in both reports that this is not a particularly strong enforcement tool. And so I'm asking, will DECD spend some time to work on a proposal to address that lack of accountability on the but-for statement, and work with the policy committees, IDEA, tax, and this committee on potentially an amendment?
That's great, Senator. Thank you. And hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn in saying this, and I'm sure Kate will tell me if I am, but I think that would be a yes, because that's, as Phoenix pointed out, the value of the but-for, as indicated in the OPEGA report, is nebulous at best. And I think we're definitely working on that. I think there are some things we could do to make things easier on everyone. So I would say yes to that.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Mace. Next person on my list is Daniel D'Alessandro, and then following Mr. D'Alessandro, we have Kenneth Capron. Sorry if I mispronounce your name once again. Kenneth Capron, and then Linda Caprera after that. Good morning, Mr. D'Alessandro.
Thank you. Senator Libby, Representative McDonald, and members of the Government Oversight Committee. Good morning. My name is Daniel D'Alessandro. I'm an attorney in the Office of Tax Policy, and I'm here on behalf of Michael Allen, the Associate Commissioner of Tax Policy at DAF. He couldn't make it today. I'm here today at the request of the administration to provide comment on the Pine Tree Development Zone report released by OPEGA. We have two principal comments on the report. First, the report discusses proactive program management, but does not specify what additional duties or roles OPEGA is recommending the program managers perform. We would be happy to participate in discussions with OPEGA, this committee, and the Taxation Committee regarding potential improvements in the area. Second, the report discusses data collection and ongoing real-time monitoring. A little background may be useful on this point. Maine Revenue Services currently administers and collects information across 48 different tax types. This information is generally limited to what MRS needs for tax administration purposes and is usually protected confidential tax information. The protection of confidential tax information is crucial. The state's tax system could not function without taxpayer confidence that the information they are required to provide to Maine Revenue Services will be limited in scope and will remain confidential. That doesn't mean that MRS can't collect non-confidential information or information for non-tax administration purposes, but it does mean that our focus, computer systems, and procedures are all developed around those primary goals of protecting the information and only collecting the needed information. In addition to the state administrative side of data collection, when considering whether new or different data is needed to monitor the program, we think it is important to take into account the compliance costs and burdens of the additional reporting requirements on program participants and work to minimize those to the extent practicable. Finally, I would like to invite a discussion at some future point on the general tax expenditure review process, including the selection and timing of reviews to maximize the policy review benefits of OPEGA's reports to the state, and if possible, to streamline the process. I'd be happy to respond to any questions you have now.
Thank you, Mr. D'Alessandro. And if you do have written remarks you'd be willing to share with the OPEGA staff, that would be very helpful in our drafting of the minutes. Are there questions of Mr. D'Alessandro from the committee? Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. D'Alessandro, thank you for your testimony. I think it was in your first point you mentioned that you'd be willing to work with GOC and the policy committees on potential improvements. And I just wanted to see if you could speak to that a little bit now that you're here with us.
So we don't have any proposal for changes to the program in that regard at this point. And I don't think that the OPEGA report really went into specifics on the changes they would like to see, but we would just be happy to participate in those discussions as they happen.
Okay, thank you.
The questions of Mr. D'Alessandro. Seeing none, Mr. D'Alessandro, I know the OPEGA staff would welcome collaboration with your office and discussion of the items you mentioned. And of course, GOC members may be interested in that and how those conversations develop as well. So thank you for your offer.
Thank you.
There are no other questions. Thank you for your testimony this morning. Next on my list is Kenneth Capron.
So Kenneth does not appear to be in attendance.
Okay. Next on my list, Linda Caprera. Good morning, Ms. Caprera.
Hello, how are you? I'm trying to get my video here going. Okay, there it is. Good morning, Senator Libby, Representative McDonald, and members of the committee. My name is Linda Caprera, and I represent the Maine State Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also a resident of Winthrop. We wanted just to take this opportunity to provide some comments on this interim report. We're very pleased to see that the report states that the PTZ program, in fact, does align with the goals of Maine's strategic plan. And it does so in a couple ways. Those goals are to grow the average wage by 10%, increase the value of what Maine sells per worker, and attract 75,000 jobs from within and outside of Maine. The PTZ program is one of Maine's primary economic development programs that has helped to grow our economy and continues to do so. Since its enactment, the PTZ program has made a significant contribution to the level of investment that we have seen here in Maine from companies. It has clearly met its intent to improve economic development in the state. As the earlier speaker said, DECD reported back in 2019 that 180 businesses were currently enrolled in the program. These companies have over 7,000 employees, those were new, with a combined total payroll of over $380 million. That's huge. There was over $500 million in qualified investment associated with this program. That is really significant for me. The legislature made some changes to the program over the past few years, and some of those were talked about, the but-for clause, adding the requirement that you create a job. Those we support. I know that some folks have problems with the but-for clause, but I think it does add an additional step to validate that the business in fact is investing because of that program. One can argue for or against it, but we feel very strongly that it does do that. Over the years, the Maine legislature has clearly recognized the importance of the PTZ program. Originally, the program was directed at economically distressed areas across the state, but in 2009, during the recession, the legislature voted, and the House in particular voted, 142 to 0. There were about 9, I think, absent, to make available the program to companies across the state. Legislators wanted the program available in their districts, and for good reason. And again, in 2018, the legislature voted to extend the program to this December 2021. Many people believe that Maine has all these economic development programs and to attract jobs and investment to the state, but that's not true. And we're very limited. This program is hugely significant. I think based on what you see here for data, I think one could say that is absolutely resulted in the creation of jobs here in the state. And it's going to be particularly important coming out of this COVID-19 pandemic. Maine has to position itself to grow the economy. And again, I think this program aligns itself very good with the goals of Maine's strategic plan. So I think that's hugely important. So I would be happy to answer any questions if you have it, and be happy to work with the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Caprera, and nice to see you again. Are there questions of Ms. Caprera from the committee? Senator Bennett.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Ms. Caprera. Thanks for your testimony. Question about the kinds of businesses that use this program from your perspective. 180 businesses, 7,000 jobs. That implies that there's about 39, almost 40 jobs created or affected positively by this program at each business on average. I'm thinking about like smaller businesses, 0 to 1 to 5 employees, 5 or fewer, micro enterprises. Is this program used by them? Can you give examples of where it has been used successfully? And is there a way of making it more accessible to those businesses, which in my view are the principal drivers of innovation and the Maine's economy?
I'd really have to look at a list of the companies. I couldn't answer that without looking at the list of who's taking it right now. But I know that there are companies across the state that this has been hugely significant for. So I will get back to you on that if that's okay.
Sure, that'd be great. Examples, anecdotal would be really good because I'd like to. It'd be great to to the extent this this program exists, we ought to be informed. I'd like to inform the small businesses in my community, but I don't want to do it if it's something that's really built for them and it's something they can use and do and take advantage of.
I can definitely get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Further questions for Ms. Caprara? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony this morning. If you have written comments and you're willing to share it with our staff, that would be most helpful.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other people wishing to testify whose names have not been called yet? If so, please use the raise your hand function. Usha, I'm not seeing any additional folks. Are you able to see any additional folks who are interested?
I don't see anyone else.
Last call for anyone else who wishes to testify this morning. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period and the committee will now move into a work session on this item. I see we've got Jennifer Henderson, analyst with Opega, who's joined us. So again, for the committee, this is the opportunity for us to have committee level discussion on the limited scope review, any of the information we've heard during the public comment period, and discussion of what our next steps may be with this project.
Senator Libby, if you'd like, we have a short overview that we can provide if you wish, if that would be helpful to get people up to speed. If not, you can proceed into your discussion, but Jen's ready to give a quick summary if you'd like that.
I think it would be helpful, and if there's no objection, please, Jen, go ahead.
Sure, happy to, Senator. Just real briefly to try to bring members back to where the GOC left this in November when they received the presentation on the report. It was a very limited scope review. It focused on just 3 evaluation questions. Those were first, what changes had been made to the Pine Tree Development Zone program since Opega had evaluated it in 2017? And on that question, we found that the legislature had made changes in the program, including, and importantly, clarification of the program's goals, and that the clarified goals really focused on the creation and retention of quality jobs. The second question was about the extent to which the Pine Tree Development Zone's design effectively targeted the program's newly stated goals. On that point, we found that the amended design of Pine Tree ensures that benefits will mostly be provided only to businesses that create and retain at least 1 quality job, and that it now requires the notarization that's been talked about today of the but-for requirement, but that this amended design does not guarantee that Pine Tree is actually resulting in more quality job creation and retention than would have happened without the program. And that's the point where we raised the idea of proactive program management to support strengthened oversight to help ensure that Pine Tree is actually effectively doing what's intended. The third question is one that's also come up already today. That was, to what extent does the Pine Tree Development Zone program align with the state's strategic economic development plan? On that point, we found that reviewing Pine Tree in comparison to the plan, Pine Tree does align with the 3 very high-level goals spoken of in the plan, but does not speak to any of the specific actions outlined in the plan. And in the report, we had referred to what was then not out yet, the expected report from the Economic Recovery Committee, as a place where there might be more light shed on Pine Tree's role in the economic recovery, linked with the strategic plan following the COVID-19 pandemic. Just a couple of updates on that. Since the presentation of the report last November, the Economic Recovery Committee has released its report, and we've taken a look at that. We've not seen anything specific to the Pine Tree Development Zone program in that report. I think we provided a link to that report in some of the materials for this committee meeting as well, for members who are interested in looking at it. We also did note that DECD has moved into implementing the statewide strategic plan and has been posting updates about the implementation on the department's website. And in taking a look at some of the updates there, we have not seen any specific mention of Pine Tree Development Zones. So just sharing that as some additional new information for committee members. And one last thing is the discussion from the committee at the report presentation in November, just to sort of recap where that was for you. Some of the questions that the GOC raised with regard to DECD were whether DECD might address Pine Tree's alignment with the strategic plan more directly as they move into implementation of the strategic plan, how Pine Tree might be made to better support and link with the details of the strategic plan, how DECD might use the plan in combination with the Economic Recovery Committee's final report as they work with the 130th legislature to try to revive weakened sectors, particularly at the small business level, and how DECD might address the lack of a strong but-for provision, as has already come up today, and the need for proactive program management and strengthened oversight of the Pine Tree Development Zone program. At that last November meeting, DECD was present, and they also mentioned that pre-COVID, DECD had planned to assess all tax incentive programs to see what's working, what's not working, and what could be improved, and what might be needed that's new. Funding for those assessments had been put on hold, they said, due to the pandemic. And as of last November, DECD was trying to find out how they could accomplish that work. And that's what I have for a recap for you.
Thank you, Jen. Are there questions or comments from the committee for Jen in any of her presentation? Senator Vitelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if someone, and I don't know whether Ms. Henderson is the right person to answer this question, but looking for insight into what proactive program management means. What would that look like? As one of the recommendations or conclusions is something that's needed. What is that? If you can help me understand that.
Absolutely. It is something that we spoke to in the report and also provided, let me just see if I can point you directly to it here, an appendix in the report to try to provide a little bit of a roadmap for that. It was Appendix D. It was an oversight framework derived from the GAO for tax expenditure programs generally, but just sort of less formally, the way that we talked about proactive program management in the report is program management that moves beyond just implementing the requirements in statute to actively trying to ensure that the program actually achieves its outcomes, that it's effective beyond just, are we ensuring that the beneficiaries meet the specific requirements? Does that help at all?
Kind of. So my next question as a follow-up, if I may, is who does that? Whose responsibility is it to answer those questions, to do the proactive management using that framework?
Right. What we had found was that it didn't seem that sort of proactive management was happening currently. There wasn't an entity that was taking responsibility for saying, okay, do we need to make changes to the program to reflect changes in the economy right now? Is the program really structured ideally to achieve its outcomes? If not, what are things that we can do to make that better? If we're not satisfied with the but-for, let's work on that. How can we improve that? Those sorts of things just on an ongoing, regular basis.
So I still don't understand who is actually going to be doing that.
I'm wondering if Lucia was looking like she
I
might.
can take a stab at that if you'd like.
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, sure. Senator Vitelli, yeah, that's a great question. And I guess so this is administered through DECD, as you heard from DECD today, and they are the stewards of this program. MRS obviously is involved with the tax benefit side of it. But as you heard from the DECD representatives, that's sort of part of their suite of programs that they administer. So a natural, it seems to me that if you are looking to enhance sort of proactive efforts to manage the program, well, it's under DECD, so that would be the natural place. Again, if you're looking more at sort of oversight questions and responsiveness, you have the policy committees of oversight being, I would say, the IDEA committee and the tax committee would be if you wanted to have more legislative, role for legislative oversight. So those are some things that come to mind to me immediately.
Thank you.
Does that help you, Senator Vitelli?
Getting closer. Thank you, Lucia.
Okay, I'm jumping in so midstream as well. So we're all getting caught up together. Thank you.
I see Carrie from Opega has her hand up. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, Senator, it took me a second to unmute myself. I think, and not trying to overstep here, that we intentionally didn't answer that question also of who should be that proactive manager, because it felt like your purview to make that decision about who should be taking on that sort of role as well.
And if I could just comment on the question, I think we have a variety of potential actions we can take. I think what we're getting at is if there is work to be done in developing stronger oversight, we might make recommendations to the appropriate policy committee for them to consider changes in statute to require new oversight or different oversight. Representative Miller. Representative, you're on mute.
Your question on the but-for and Senator Vitelli's on the proactive management, and my attempt to raise the issue of looking at the Economic Recovery Committee and a post-pandemic alignment with the strategic plan are really all three related to what we do with this final report and how we shape responses to those probing questions and future needs. And I want to say I've always been a long-time supporter of a long-term economic development strategy. So when Commissioner Johnson took it on and announced it in late 19, I felt good about it. I thought it was good on high-level goals, but lacking specific timelines. And as Appendix B speaks to Senator Vitelli's question, it really doesn't address outcomes in a very specific, measurable way. So I'm thinking that we need the help of staff, and both Lucia and Carrie have focused on that, as well as Jennifer. And I think we're right in this middle of the pandemic economic recovery period, and maybe we need a little bit more time, but it seemed to me that we might put this back on our agenda in April or May and say, at that point, we ought to hear DECD's plan for alignment with the Economic Recovery and Strategic Plan. Maybe the two agencies that have the most administrative responsibility speak to the issue of proactive program management and how best to enforce that but-for provision. And I think there's been an allusion to both taxation and IDEA B committees having oversight here. So I guess what I'm struggling for is we're not going to be able to give this program good direction and specific long-term vision today or in the next few days or months. But I think we need to keep it in the queue for getting specific recommendations before us in the next maybe 90 days from the parties that can shape those recommendations and put it into what I would call an outcome-driven plan to strengthen it, to make it more measurable in terms of value, and to achieve that alignment that I think we're going to need over the next 8, 9, 10 years.
Thank you, Representative Millett. And I'm in agreement, I think, in the direction you'd like to head with this. So I might suggest for the committee that we have the OPEGA staff help us draft the questions that we would like to pose, I think first to DECD, or sort of primarily to DECD, secondarily to Maine Revenue Services, posing those questions that we've generated here today, but also that have been generated by the staff and in the conclusions of their limited scope. Pose those questions formally by letter to those agencies. I think we'd also like to copy the two policy committees in that communication so that they have an awareness of what we're hoping to achieve. And that might be an appropriate action for us to discuss and consider taking today. I also just wanted to note, I think my recollection in discussing this with staff that we've not yet sent this follow-up report to the policy committees yet. And if that's the case, I think we'd like to formally transmit them this report with a cover letter to both policy committees. So those are a couple of actions we could consider. And finally, I'd agree with Representative Millett that we might give 45 days perhaps for some work to be done within the agencies and have them come back to us in response to that. Representative Arata.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This program expires December 31st of 2021. So is it worth putting this sort of effort into it at this time, or is there a bill outstanding that would extend the program?
That's a great question. The program benefits will continue to flow for some number of years after that date. I know that. It would not surprise me if there was a bill to extend the date for enrollment in the program, but I don't have an answer to that question. I don't know if
maybe before we direct all this work to be accomplished, we should find out. Thank you.
I'd be happy to look and see what's out there for legislation. I haven't seen anything yet, but I could easily we could take a look fairly quickly and see. But again, that's just what's printed as of now. So
That's true. And
But
I
we
would
can
hate
look
to
at the-
make, oh, so I would hate to make substantial changes to the program for businesses that are currently enrolled in it. You know, we don't want to pull the rug out from under anybody.
yeah, I'm happy to take a look at the requested titles that were published at cloture and then what's been printed so far. We're not aware of any immediately, but we can just double check on that.
Thank you.
Further questions or comments? Senator Bennett.
Yeah, just on that point, I haven't delved into the budgetary proposal as yet, but perhaps Representative Millet has seen it enough to answer that question as to whether there's a continuation of this program. I would imagine that, you know, in addition, if the program is envisioned being extended, it might be recognized in the budget.
Representative Millet, you have a response?
Actually, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator. It really is not a budgeted program within the general fund budget because, as both Phoenix and other staff members from DECD have said, it basically loses tax revenue, but not at a very defined way. And we don't put any staff resources into it that I'm aware of, other than as part of the DECD budget, and the MRS assumed responsibility. So I'm not aware. Representative Rader's also on approach, as is Senator Bailey. We've not heard anything, although we will be hearing the DECD budget next week. So we just heard it. So I don't think we've had anything presented to us specific to the Pine Tree Development Zone's continuity or funding, but I will say that I'm not the final answer on it. So if Donna or Amy have any other opinions, I just don't think it's a program in the normal sense of the general fund budget.
Apologies to Representative Arata and Senator Bailey. Representative Millet represents some of the towns in my district, and so he's my go-to guy, so forgive me.
I don't know if Representative Arata or Senator Bailey have additional comments on that question.
It's not an expenditure in the budget. I think it's foregone revenue. So we haven't seen anything regarding this program that I recall. And I think we went through this portion of the budget fairly recently.
Thank you. Lucia has her hand raised.
I'm going back to the earlier question. I have a quick answer from staff who were able to track down that there was on the published list of legislative requests by cloture, there is a bill and act to promote economic competitiveness in Maine by extending the end date for Pine Tree Development Zone benefits. We don't have the language, it hasn't been printed, so we don't know the exact details, but there is a bill title sponsored by Senator Daughtry.
All right, thank you very much.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Back to your comment a bit ago about a 45-day period assignment and some next steps, assuming we could give some direction before the legislative adjournment target comes up. Do you have, could you restate what you would like to see done? Because I thought I was hearing an action plan that might make some sense and could be achieved before we reach statutory adjournment.
Sure, Representative. I can pose some questions that I would envision being included in a letter that we send to DECD and Maine Revenue. I can pose those questions and then talk about the process a little bit. So the questions are really contained in that sheet that's prepared by, I believe it was Jen Henderson. I'm not sure where it occurs in our binder, but it's the OPEGA limited scope review on Pine Tree Development Zones summary prepared for this meeting, February 26, 2021. Before I go into it, Lucia, do you know where in our binder that sheet's contained?
Sure, that was something that we sent out this week. So it was sent electronically to members. We can screen share it if that would be helpful to you.
That would be helpful.
Okay, just a second. Would you feel like I can go ahead and do that? Make sure I find the, no, I might ask Jen to do, that's not what I want. Yeah, hold on one second. Here we go. Are you seeing that? No, that's not it either. I'm sorry. No, okay.
It's okay.
I'm gonna have to ask Jen to share it because I don't have it queued up if she has it, sorry.
Sure. Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you both. So the questions that I'm interested in posing to DECD primarily are contained in the right-hand column of the sheet we're looking at. Questions related to DECD. I think several committee members have also raised these questions today and during the public comment period. I don't know that we got a lot in the way of substance from the DECD staff in direct response, although they all, I believe, committed to working with us in addressing these questions. So the 4 questions are contained on the right-hand side of that document, whether DECD would address alignment with strategic plan. I'm not sure that the second one is really, I think the first question really covers that. The third bullet, how will DECD use the plan in combination with the final report? You know, we know that it was not called out in the final report, but I think there is a good question to pose there with respect to reviving weakened sectors, particularly at the small business level, and Senator Bennett was discussing that earlier. The fourth bullet is one that I'm particularly interested in. I'd like to hear some recommendations for how we address the lack of a strong but-for provision. And then the final question, I think, has mostly been generated, our discussions mostly been generated here today, which is what can DECD recommend for stronger proactive program management to strengthen oversight and help ensure this program is effective. So what I've laid out, I think, are 4 questions. I'd like the committee to consider us posing to DECD primarily, main revenue services secondarily, and then further we could copy the chairs of the IDEA committee and the tax committee in this transmittal. And then the final action is that I think we should send the limited scope review to both of those policy committees, so that they have that in their possession and it's on their radar as they consider legislation to extend this program. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to accomplish. And if it's appropriate, I'd ask the committee if they might, if a member might make a motion to that effect. And I'm sorry, finally, having this come back to our agenda in a 45-day period, and asking that the relevant parties provide responses to us in a 45-day period would also be part of that. Lucia has her hand up.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understand clearly. The questions are outlined are questions for DECD, and you mentioned sort of secondarily asking questions for MRS. So I didn't know if the intent would be to send the letter to DECD and copy the relevant people at MRS, or if you had specific questions you wanted to ask MRS separately, because the questions outlined are clearly directed to DECD. So I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on that if you decide to go further in that direction.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that main revenue primarily can help us with perhaps the but-for question and with the oversight question, even though I understand the oversight lies primarily with DECD. Main revenue is certainly very much involved in the tax side of things. So we might direct most of the questions to DECD and might carve out those couple of questions for main revenue specifically.
Thank you.
So in screen share mode, I'm not able to see all of the committee members. So if you are interested in speaking, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you outlined the motion, and with Lucia's clarification on copying MRS and focusing on those two issues with that turnaround time that you referred to, I'm sure that Etta and Lucia have captured your comments. I would put them in the form of motion if that's appropriate.
It is appropriate. Thank you, Representative Millett. So a motion is on the floor. Is there a second? Senator Vitelli seconds. Does the committee understand the motion? Questions or comments on the motion? Representative Arata.
I just wanted to be clear that the elimination of any sort of a but-for statement is a possibility. Am I correct in that assumption that could be a recommendation?
I'm not 100% sure I understand the question.
Well, there could be the assumption made that any new jobs are due to this program, and with no need for further certification of that. Is that an option? I guess I'm sort of telling the department to maybe consider that as part of all, a multitude of options. Because I'm not crazy about the but-for, but that's just me. But I'd like to see all the options. Is that clear?
Yeah, so I think for our purposes, I'll set aside my personal opinion, which I feel the but-for statement needs to be strengthened. And I think Representative Arata, you might be coming from a different direction, and that's fine. That's not something we have to debate as part of this motion. I think what we are asking DECD to come back to us with are more effective instruments for ensuring the tax benefits flow to the most in need businesses. So I don't think we are prescribing an approach in this motion. If that helps answer your
yes, that's
question.
fine. Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments on the motion? Is the committee ready for the question? Are the staff clear on the motion? Okay. So I will first ask committee members to come back on video if you're not, because in a moment I'll ask Etta to call the roll. Etta, go ahead.
Senator Libby.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Bailey.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Vitelli.
Yes.
Yes. Senator Keim. Absent. Senator Timberlake. Absent. Senator Bennett.
Yes.
Yes. Representative McDonald.
Yes.
Yes. Representative O'Neill.
Yes.
Yes. Representative Stover.
Yes.
Yes. Representative Dillingham. Absent. Representative Millet.
Yes.
Yes. Representative Arata.
Yes.
Yes.
The motion carries and it is unanimous. Lucia, I have on our public agenda committee vote on this report. If it's a traditional tax expenditure review, there are a series of steps prescribed in statute for how we proceed. But this is not a formal tax expenditure review. This was an add-on, and it's called a limited scope review. So do you need us to take a vote on endorsement of this review?
Sure. So yes, there are different procedures for reports under the tax expenditure review statutes and the standard reviews, program reviews that OPEGA does at the direction of the GOC. It is typical for the committee to take a vote on endorsement of a report. I believe you did that at your most recent meeting on the Maine Commission on Indigent Legal Services report. So if people can think back to that, I think that was just a couple of weeks ago. So this particular report, while it's on a tax incentive program, it came through as a more program review, not a tax expenditure review. So it's typical to take a vote on endorsement, and it's my understanding that that's what happens. There is not a statutory mandate for the traditional reviews. It is that the committee shall, at its discretion, vote on endorsement of the report, and the options in the statute are to endorse the report in full, to endorse the report in part, or to release a report without endorsement. And if it would be helpful, I can review what endorsement means.
Thank you, Lucia. And I was trying to flip through my binder, the criteria we use to assess whether the committee endorses a report. So if you could point us to that section in the binder and briefly review it.
Let's see, I have it in my notes. I'm not sure I'm learning my way around this binder, but let me just verbally tell you, and then in the meantime, sure. I can try and see if I could point you to it. But voting to endorse the report by OPEGA means that the GOC finds the results credible, objective, and sufficiently relevant and complete with regard to the assigned scope for the review, and that any recommendations are reasonable and appropriate for the issues identified. So the distinction really is that this is a vote on whether OPEGA responded to the questions that the GOC set forth in a way that was credible, objective, and sufficiently relevant and complete, as opposed to a position. So it's a position on the substance of it. It's more the quality of the work product.
Thank you. And with that, I think a motion to endorse the report would be in order. I'm looking for anyone on the committee who'd be willing to make that motion.
We endorse the report, Mr. Chair.
Representative O'Neill has moved endorsement of this report. Second. And the second was from Senator Bennett. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Etta, would you call the roll?
Senator Libby?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Bailey?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Vitelli?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Keim? Absent. Senator Timberlake? Absent. Senator Bennett?
Yes.
Yes. Representative McDonald?
Yes.
Yes. Representative O'Neill?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Stover?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Dillingham? Absent. Representative Millet?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Arata?
Yes.
Yes.
The motion carries and it is unanimous. Next on our agenda, report from our director. I'll turn it over to Lucia.
Thank you very much. So if you would like a reference in your notebooks, this is tab 4. And what I'm going to give you is a very quick just refresher on where things stand with respect to the projects that OPEGA has in progress. I want to mention that sort of the overall focus and priority right now is to get things lined up for the GOC so that you are poised to make decisions about how you as a committee want to direct OPEGA to proceed and prioritize projects when you take up the annual work plan of OPEGA, was tentatively planned for the end of March. So we're looking at getting things teed up for you in a way that you can make good decisions looking at everything that's before you and decide on where you want the focus to be for this coming year. So quickly, the main citizens initiative project has been a project in process for several years now. It is in very late stages of fieldwork and early drafting. It is the next report that OPEGA will complete and present to the GOC. We recognize the need to get this wrapped up. It's been set aside because other priorities have emerged and has been alluded to earlier. There's a limited resource here. And so when other things come before us, sometimes the GOC asks us to prioritize those. So we're working to wrap that one up for you and deliver that. There are 2 also on this page that are related to work at the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Child and Family Services. OPEGA has in process a topic on out-of-home placement for children removed from care by the department. And that is in the preliminary research phase. And the GOC of the 129th had extended the preliminary research to collect data and monitor activities through September of 2020 because OCFS was implementing a lot of a new strategic plan. So OPEGA has collected that information and is looking forward to providing you an update in the context of discussing the work plan. So we're pulling that together. Also on the subject, sticking with OCFS is at the bottom of the page of approved projects. There's a follow-up survey that the GOC was interested in having OPEGA do. An initial survey was done in 2019, and there was the need to take a pause and allow OCFS to implement this strategic plan. And so we will again put that before you as part of the work plan as to where you want to go with that at this point. Also on the approved list is the Maine Commission on Indigent Legal Services. The phase 1 of that, which was 2 scope questions, were presented in November, and you had the public hearing and work session at your last meeting and asked staff to do some fairly quick turnaround work and come back to you on about the prospects of the sort of backward-looking data analysis. So we're planning to do that within the next month as well. Also, there are 2 other scope questions that are still outstanding, and those are in field work. The Pine Tree Development Zones, you just have spent a lot of time on today. So I think you're all up to speed on where that stands. The other 3 projects that are in progress are tax expenditure evaluations. There's the seed capital investment tax credit full evaluation that's in fieldwork, and OPEGA plans to submit that report in the fall of 2021. And then two newer tax expenditure evaluations are the historic preservation credit and the research expense tax credit. So what OPIG is working on right now for both of those is developing the proposed parameters. Part of the process for tax expenditures is that the OPEGA puts together parameters for the review and brings those to the GOC, and those are part of the formal process of going through a tax expenditure evaluation. That this may make more sense to new members once you have the overview and review of the tax expenditure process, which the chairs have tentatively scheduled for your March 12th meeting. So some of what I mentioned regarding tax expenditure reviews may make more sense to you after we have that discussion and presentation. And so that is what I have for you at this moment.
Thank you, Lucia. Are there questions or comments on this matter? Senator Vitale.
Thank you, Senator Libby. So just a question, since we've, in a sense, sort of put the Maine Blueberry Commission on a slightly different track, will it show up on this list at some point if it comes back to us for further review?
It's a great question. So I think it will not appear on this list unless we, at a future meeting, take a vote to put it on our work plan or put it on our rapid review or rapid response list. So I think that's probably where it sits. Lucia, correct me if I'm.
Yeah, I was just going to say this particular document is organized in terms of approved projects, has a section on that are approved and in progress. There's a section on approved but pending planning. There's a section on things that have alternatively been called on deck or standby. And then, so, you know, we can organize information for you however you wish. New requests, you know, we can, if it's helpful to have that on one document to also say outstanding new requests, there's no, you know, that would be something easy to add if that would be helpful to you to have it in one place. But right now, the way it's set up, there's not a category on that list for pending new requests, but let me know if you would like that added.
I think that's a constructive suggestion. I'd welcome that addition. Another thought is we have two items on our list that, you know, one originated 11 years ago regarding the Department of Corrections, and then another originated 8 years ago regarding DHHS. And so I think one of the things that I found serving on GOC is that, you know, we will often be asked to undertake new reviews, and we have to make decisions based on our staff capacity, projects that are in progress, and what is on our on deck list. I've been on the committee for a while, but it is challenging to recall the specifics of how the DOC and the DHHS items came to us. So I wonder if ahead of our discussion on the work plan, if Lucia, you could provide some of that background material for the committee on those two requests, whether we want to keep them on the list, maybe consider taking them off, and again, whether we might put Maine Blueberry Commission or other projects on our list for this year.
Sure, we can. I'm happy to provide a brief summary. We'll have to dig back however many years you mentioned and see, and it'll be up for you to decide if those questions are still germane and priorities for the current DOC. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. Further questions or comments for Lucia? Seeing none, thank you. Next on our agenda is planning for upcoming meetings. So we'll convene again in 2 weeks, which will be March 12th, 2021. We're planning to do an overview of the tax expenditure review process, updating the tax expenditure classification and the schedule. I think we will have the Maine Blueberry Commission request carried forward as old business. If there's the opportunity for some work to be done between now and then, that would be great. Although I think we talked about perhaps giving interested parties a month to do that work. If, and I guess I'm mostly speaking to Representative O'Neill at this point, if the committee is able to take some action in the next couple of weeks and you're ready to present some of your findings to us at the next meeting, that would be welcome as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see what we can do to get it on the calendar and speak with interested parties.
Okay. And with that, I have no other items on my agenda. Are there any other matters that any committee members would like to bring up at this time? Seeing none, Lucia, is there anything else we need to take up?
No, I think we're all set. We'll be working on pulling together the various letters and information that have been requested today, and look forward to seeing everyone again in 2 weeks.
Okay. So with that, I thank the committee for your work today, and I'll look to Representative Millett for a motion to adjourn.
I would so move.
Representative Millett's moved to adjourn. Representative O'Neill has seconded. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.